Nityanandam and welcome back. Today I am in our very beautiful Tirushulam Adheenam, and you can see a wonderful Ganesha in the background. So the Tirushulam Adheenam is the headquarters of Nityananda Peetham, of Nityananda Peetham, Tamil Nadu, and I'm currently here at our very beautiful Tirushulam Adheenam. So today I wanted to share with all of you a very beautiful conversation that I had with one of the devotees who was here at our Adheenam. This was regarding our age. Now, how do we normally relate to age? More so, we have a very wrong conception, a very wrong idea about our true age in the real sense. All of us are very used to talking about our so-called physical age, the age of us in this birth. Well, in reality, is that our real age? Now, before I actually get into this subject, I wanted to actually recall the conversation that I had with this devotee who had visited us here at the Adheenam. And this is relevant to many of the seekers, who have a thirst for seeking, but they feel that their age is not right. You'll find very often many people saying either they will take up spirituality, once they are done with their worldly life, once they are done with their regular life, and when they are going to retire, they will take up the spiritual life. And there are a few others who will say once they are already there in their late 60s or early 60s, and when they are going to be retiring, then they say that that spirituality is really not for them, and that they're all very old to take up this life. So you'll find both these two extreme contradictory statements in most people, and they very often are reluctant to take up this spiritual life. So what I'd like to tell you is, normally we have a misconception of our so-called age. What is this so-called age, and how should we actually be looking at age? Now, we need to have a deeper understanding of how old we really are. Now, we very often tend to relate to age of the physical body, of this lifetime. But in reality, this soul is many thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, or you can even say millions of years old. If you actually you are evolved into becoming so many different kinds of beings before you actually took this human birth. Now, that is the real understanding that we really need to have. And see, it is this wonderful evolution that we have all been through before we have taken this human form, and that is something that has to be considered. The being, as long as there is an intention for growth, see, it is an automatic, like Swamiji says, it is an automatic intention to want to grow and want to evolve to a higher self. That is somewhere innately, naturally there in us. Otherwise, we would not have evolved to this extent and would not have taken this birth. But what needs to be understood is you can always make this evolution a lot quicker. You can evolve and you can choose to grow at a much more rapid and faster pace. Just as how a tree would want to take a form that would want to move, maybe of a dog or of a cat or maybe even of a human being. So, you know, so you would have evolved from being a plant to a tree to different kinds of animals to some, reptile or, a fish in the ocean. And then finally you would have taken to be who you are now, a much higher conscious being on planet Earth in the human form. So, what we need to understand is it is never too early, nor is it ever too late to take up the spiritual life, where you're working on your consciousness to achieve the ultimate state of Sadashiva, of Sadashivatva. So please, we need to break that misconception here, saying that I'm too old now and it is too late for me to take on this life. Please understand, it is never too late to take on the spiritual life and never too late to work on one's consciousness. So this was an understanding that I gave this person who was nearly around 65 years old in his days of retirement, and he was reluctant to attend to Swamiji's program, and this was the excuse that he was giving me, that he was too old and whether he will really be able to sit in the classes and do yoga and maybe meditate or whatever it takes in the sessions. So I told him, that it's never too late to work on yourself, because it is what you do in this lifetime, every moment. It is what space you've at the end of the day achieved, is what is really that important, and is going to be the deciding factor as to whether the kind of birth that you will take in the next life. So to the extent of how much of work you've done on your consciousness, it is going to be to that extent, you will take your next birth, your next life, in that much of a higher frequency or in a higher conscious. You will end up taking up a much higher conscious birth, or you never know, you can achieve the ultimate this very lifetime and not even have to take another life, not even have to take another birth. So this is something that I wanted to share regarding the understanding of age being a factor for our spiritual growth. And on the other side, there is you will find many of the teenagers who think that there's so much to live in life, in the matrix, and so they really don't have time to work on their consciousness. Well, this is a blatant, it's a drastic mistake that people tend to make, and this is something like ignoring the thirst of the being, and just completely ignoring the call of the being to want to achieve and strive to move to a higher plane, to a higher consciousness. You are going against that very natural instinct of wanting to be much better and wanting to evolve to much higher spaces and higher states of your consciousness. So this was something that I wanted to briefly share with all of you. Thank you for listening, and looking forward to seeing a lot more of you. If you have any questions, please put out your questions. I'll be more than glad to answer them to the best of my ability. Thank you so much, Nityananda.